Welcome to Tales of Resilience, the podcast that shares the real stories of the people behind animal rescue, the heartbreaks, the triumphs, and the moments that keep us going. I'm your host, Jolene, a mental health therapist and lifelong animal lover. This podcast is brought to you by Zodipods, a heart-led company celebrating the bond between people and their pets, and Animal Rescue Hub, our free nonprofit directory supporting rescue groups across the country. This episode may include references of animal suffering and death, as well as themes of mental health, including suicide. Hello, and welcome to Tales of Resilience. I'm your host, Jolene, and we have a very cool guest today, Rachel Davis. She is a full-time hospice registered nurse in Cowlitz County, Washington, which has probably likely contributed to her success and resilience in running a specialized medical rescue. Lily's Pad Rescue was born out of a special bond made with an English bulldog named Lily Pad with spina bifida. The path then was paved to make space to help other bulldogs that are medically challenged. Please welcome Rachel Davis. Welcome, Rachel, and thank you for being a part of this conversation.
Well, thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited to share all about Lily's Pad Rescue and what we do here.
Yeah, excited to learn more, and also excited to hear more about how you work with these specialized cases. I love these niche pockets of need that people like yourself find themselves in, right? Bridging a needed gap. Can you start off with telling us a little bit more about Lily's Pad Rescue and then your own personal path into the world of rescue?
Sure, absolutely. So we do specialize Lily's Pad Rescue. It really started off with just bringing in English and French bulldogs with spina bifida. That's kind of our specialty. However, because of need, we've branched out a little bit. So we get dogs with intervertebral disc disease, we get dogs with hydrocephalus, and just an array of medical conditions. And that was just out of sheer need in the community. But spina bifida is our specialty, and we came about that because of Lily Pad. And when I first adopted her, I did a lot of research in how to best care for her. And I found this community of bulldogs with spina bifida. I had never even heard of dogs having spina bifida, and then come to find that there's a actual community out there of these dogs with that condition, and there is a gap in the rescue world for these dogs. And so my husband and I decided, well, maybe we need to help bridge the gap. And so here we are.
Yeah, that's amazing. I too was completely unaware of, well, to be frank, I'm probably still pretty unclear about what spina bifida really is. Would you be able to explain more about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So spina bifida typically happens down in the lumbar vertebrae. So your vertebrae along your spine, it's the same in dogs as in humans, where you have, the cervical up top, the thoracic, and then the lumbar. The lumbar vertebrae with spina bifida, there's a gap in between two of the vertebrae, and you can actually feel a divot. There's a telltale sign of spina bifida where you can feel a divot there. And so the spinal cord can protrude, causing incontinence, causing paralysis, and there are different levels of severity with spina bifida. You can have a dog who's completely incontinent of both bowel and bladder but walks fine. I do have a dog in right now that appears she can control her bowel movements, and that's great. And she's also fully mobile, so she would be on the less severe. And then I have dogs that have actually had to have their legs amputated because they were more severe. So it definitely is a congenital issue. And there's no actual cure for it, and there's no real testing to determine if a dog is a carrier of spina bifida. So it's a tricky one to deal with, but it's manageable once you have them.
Yeah. And so it's not necessarily breed specific because I obviously you guys kind of focus on the bulldog aspect, but does it reach across other breeds or is it specific to the bulldogs?
It's rare, but I have seen it. I've seen a German Shepherd with spina bifida. There are some pit bulls out there with spina bifida. It is just very pronounced in the bulldog community. And for whatever reason, bulldogs are weird anyway. Bulldogs have a very structured issue with just even how they're bred. And we bred them down to have these flat faces and they're shorter and squattier. And so I think that plays a role in the development of these types of congenital issues.
Yeah, I could see how that would make sense. Okay.
Mhm.
Okay, so yes, the door was open and you got more information and realized you could help continue to fill this gap, fill this need. And so you're like, okay, let's take on these medically complicated dogs.
Sure. Well, and what's interesting is initially it was just going to be we can just maybe foster one or two at a time. And I got lily pad from another rescue, Panda Paws Rescue. You may have heard of them. They're local here. Um, I got lily pad from her because I had actually met with her and I said, listen, I'm a hospice nurse. I really want to take in a dog that is maybe a hospice case. And we've been looking at bulldogs and, I'd love if you come across a bulldog. And then, one day she called and said, hey, I think I have your dog. And so here, was lily pad and she was just the most amazing dog I have ever met in my entire life. She is my soulmate. There is no question about that. Um, but like I said, I was researching. I got her, and I'm like, oh my goodness, what am I now? What do I do with this dog? She has to wear a diaper. She's wobbly. What do I do? What have I gotten myself into? And so I found these communities on Facebook, actually, like Bulldogs with Special Needs, Bulldogs with Spina Bifida, and connected with some really great people who helped me walk the walk. And so my husband and I thought, well, maybe we can help, foster one here, one there. And not too much longer after we got lily pad, we got a call again from the same rescue. Hey, could you go pick up this puppy for me? And one thing led to another, and that was Collie, and Ken was completely attached to her. And then shortly after that came Wilbur, and I said, okay, if we're going to do this, we need to do it right. And that's when I started doing the research and filing for a 501c3 and all of the back end rescue things. So that's really how Lily's Pad was born, was just we want to do this. We need to do it right.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
yeah.
Did you grow up with animals? Have animals always been a part of your life?
I did. I'm the one who always brought home a stray, and whether it was human or animals, I was bringing home strays. My dad always brought home stray dogs. My grandmother brought home stray humans. I mean, it was just kind of ingrained in me. And when I started Lily's Pad, I was actually working with a horse rescue, and I had rescued a horse, and that's it was great, but it wasn't really where my heart was. I love dogs so much, and I've always rescued dogs. Um, but there was just something about this. This was different. This was a calling.
Mm-hmm.
It fell in my lap and it just felt very right.
Yeah. It seems to be a common thread amongst people I've been talking to that um, there's just this lifelong attachment to animals and serving animals and
Mm-hmm.
yeah, and I love that it really what you're doing right now speaks to a deep calling for you. I think that helps as we'll talk about further just some of that resilience to kind of stick with something.
Right. And I do believe that people come into rescue and the work that we do, honestly. I think that, it's not something you wake up one day and say, I think I'll start a rescue. I mean, I really do think that there's a path and a pattern. And then once you're in it, then it gets deep. Then you have to figure out all the ins and outs and the resilience of it all and how to maintain not just the rescue, but yourself as well. And
Exactly.
like you said, there's a lot to be said about that. So yeah.
Absolutely. So when you have to think about how to describe a normal day or a normal week, now I know you have your full-time job, which obviously takes a lot of time and energy. And then you have your commitments to the dogs. Um, can you paint me a picture of what an average day or week looks like, the good, the bad, the ugly?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, obviously in rescue, there's always things that pop up that you can't anticipate. And you have to be able to pivot in things. But an average day for me, because I do work, when I'm getting ready for work in the morning, I am checking messages for the rescue. I'm checking on my foster team. I'm checking on dogs that, maybe we've just gotten in. And then I go to work, and in between, because I'm a hospice nurse and I work out in the community. Okay, so I go to patients' homes, and in between, maybe while I'm going from one patient to the next, I'm listening to voicemails or making phone calls and that kind of thing. I do get many calls throughout the day. For most of my phone calls are owner surrenders. Most of them are people that want to give me their dogs. I do get a lot of calls for other animals as well, but I try to lead those people to other rescue groups. But that is a big part of what I do throughout the day, is just fielding those phone calls. And unfortunately, most of them I'm having to tell them, I'm sorry, I can't help, because we are always full and we have a wait list. And so it gets trying sometimes. And then usually on my lunch, where I can just sit for a bit, I'm answering emails. I'm maybe looking at adoption applications or making phone calls on those applications and doing our initial phone interviews, paying bills, because I have to call vets and pay bills because we do have fosters outside of here at the house, what we call the pad. I We are a foster based rescue, and so I have fosters. I'm trying to stay on the West Coast, so I have California, Texas, Arizona, Idaho, um, Oregon, and Washington,
Oh,
and Colorado. So these are all people that I have to connect with, and vets that I have to call and pay bills for. So that's kind of a typical day of, those are my responsibilities.
wow.
And
That's really
sometimes
interesting.
there's a dog sprinkled in there that I have to actually set up. Okay, we need to save this dog. That's where the wheels start turning. That's where I need to get really into fast thinking mode and
Okay.
get those things done.
So when you say something like that, when you have to save a dog, does that mean like this is a crisis situation that has just popped up, or what would that look like?
Yes. So if I get a call, I can speak recently. I had a call from a shelter in Las Vegas a couple months ago, and we literally had hours before they were going to euthanize a dog to get this dog picked up. That means I had to find somebody who could commit to fostering. I had to find somebody who could go pick the dog up. I had to work with the shelter to get us all on the same page. Yes, we will take the dog, but you've got to give me some time. They don't want to give you time. It is now or the dog is walking down that pathway. And luckily I got connected. I posted on Facebook. That's a lot of my work is done via social media. And a one of our followers knew someone who lived in Vegas that she thought could probably help. Next thing I know, I'm talking to that person, never met this person, but we had an instant connection on the phone. I'm like, I love this family. Yes, go pick up this dog. They literally went and sat at the shelter and waited for my paperwork to get signed and everything get approved. And they were, I mean, they waited for a good couple of hours, but we got the dog saved. She is now living, she actually is a foster fail. They adopted her.
Oh, yeah.
So it had a very happy ending, but it was a close call. And that's a lot of very fast paced work that needs to be done because one minute late and we lose this dog for no reason. You know, they euthanize for space and they won't adopt out a medically needy dog.
Hmm.
So if you can't commit, she loses her life and now she's living her best life and she's amazingly loved. So, you know, and Lily's Pet Rescue has a new foster out of it.
Yeah,
So
that's amazing. Yeah.
it's great. It's great.
The power of community.
Absolutely. Yeah. We can't do it alone. We need the community. We need social media. Social media is, I say it all the time, it's a blessing and a curse because it can ruin your day, but it can also save a life. So
Yes. So, what do you think is something that's commonly misunderstood or a common misconception about the work that you're doing? What would you want people to understand or hear or know?
well, most importantly, I think, and you may hear this a lot as you interview rescue directors, people really need to understand that we are all volunteers. We have lives outside of this. I work a full time job. A lot of what I'm doing is during breaks at my full time job. And my full time job is also very stressful, it's very emotionally draining and so is rescue. And we get a lot of unkind people. We get a lot of bullying. We get a lot of, why won't you save this dog? And we can only do so much. We have a bandwidth for which we can, manage our lives. And when we have that negativity, it really does take a toll. And people need to understand that sometimes we have to shut down and shut off. And so if we're not responding to you right away, we need some grace in that. And we can't take them all. So if I'm saying, no, I'm sorry, I can't take your dog, it's not because I believe your dog is less needy or less important than any other. It breaks my heart when I have to say no. And believe me, I carry that with me all of the time. When I have to say no, I feel it. It hurts. Um, so getting the backlash from that is not helpful. It's just not. And quite honestly, I think if somebody's giving me grace and being kind, I'm more apt to say, let me see if I can work a little harder to help you find something for your dog. Let me see if I can help connect you to another rescue. I can make some phone calls because oftentimes I'll give people a list. Here's some other rescues you can look at. But if you're not giving me grief and I'm feeling like for you, I may help you make those phone calls. But
Mhm.
if you're nasty to me, it makes me not want to help you.
I
You
think
know?
that's very human. I think it's very hard to sit on the receiving end of anger and frustration. And
Yeah, if you're
yeah,
calling me names, I'm probably just going to say, well, here's your list. Go do the footwork
yeah.
yourself. But if we're on the same page, then I might do some of that footwork for you. Because I know what it's like to have to make these hard decisions. And I know that for some of these people, it's heartbreaking to have to give up a dog because they suddenly have medical issues that they can't manage or they can't afford. It's hard. we do get the other side that they don't care. We get some people that, hey, I got this dog, she was born, with this problem, if you don't take her, I'm going to euthanize, and they're just real cold about it.
Mhm.
um and I just want to take their dog.
Yeah.
So I try to make it work, but it's, and I'm not going to do legwork for them if I can't help the dog, because I have to protect my own mental health in those situations.
Yeah.
So
Exactly.
yeah.
Yeah.
So that's the big one, is just for people to realize that we are volunteers. We don't get paid for this. It's extremely emotionally and physically and mentally draining. Give us some grace. And for rescuers, for each other too.
Hmm.
As rescue groups, we need to give each other grace. And that doesn't always happen. And it breaks my heart when I see bad behavior amongst rescues. We've there was just a big loss in the rescue community. The Save a Fox director,
Yeah.
and obviously heard about that. And you know when I see things like that, I it reminds me that we are all so vulnerable. We need to take care of each other. We are all in it for one common goal, and that is to save lives. And
Yeah.
if we're playing a part in somebody's mental health going down the drain, why are we here?
Yeah. Yeah, I appreciate you saying that. And frankly, that was one of the catalysts for me to just say, like, okay, I think we need to have some conversations. So that um incident in particular was a real jump off point here for me too. So yeah, it's harsh work. And I think everyone's trying to do their best. And I believe I would have to imagine that the majority of people's hearts are in the best places and they're doing the best that they can. And but to your point, there's a capacity, right? You're just a human after all, and you can't do everything. You can't save everyone or all the beings, and you do have to take care of yourself at a point.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Self-care is not selfish. That's one of my favorite sayings.
Right.
It took me a long time to get to a point where um I could take care of myself. I mean, I mentioned I'm sitting at my painting desk. My art I started watercoloring, and it's just an outlet for me. And I think that those of us in rescue, it's important to find something that can be an outlet for you.
Yeah. Yeah,
Mm.
I love that. So are there other versions of self-care that you kind of lean into? Maybe just kind of leisurely, or also when times when you're feeling like I just need to get some of this energy out of me.
Yes, well, I try to start my mornings off with some stretching and some breathing. And I'm not perfect, and I sometimes I get up, oh gosh, I'm late. I can't take 5 minutes for myself right now. But also leaning into your supports is a really important aspect as well. And knowing that, like, I always try to be the person who tells my rescue partners, what can I help you with? What do you need? I have a shoulder, being a listening ear for each other. And I try to allow myself to do that, to lean on my supports, my family, my rescue partners. Because again, we need to be able to talk about things. So that's good for me to talk about, what's going on and how can we work through some of these things.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad that you balanced out that statement of I heard what you said of you want to encourage other people to talk through things, and sometimes I find that it's easy to encourage other people to do the thing, but it's harder for us to do the thing. So I'm glad to hear that you also give yourself space to kind of talk through and process these feelings and these events that are happening.
Oh, sure, that came with a lot of therapy. I didn't just make that up. Let's be real.
Well, kudos to you and your therapist.
I'm all about normalizing therapy. It should, I think almost everybody, I really think everybody should take part in therapy at some point because it really is a useful tool. You learn a lot about yourself.
You totally do. Yeah, I
Yeah.
agree. It can't hurt, I think.
Yeah, no, definitely. I would hope not.
Right. Well,
If it hurts, there's a problem.
yes. I unfortunately know that that happens too. So that's
Sure.
a whole
Yeah,
other thing.
right.
Um, if you had to define resilience in your own words, how would you define resilience?
I would define resilience as being able to take in the good, the bad, the ugly, processing it, and being able to move through it and move on and coming back better for what you're going through. Um, in in everybody's life, we all have something that has brought us down, and it's not about how hard you fall and how long you stay down, but what you feel when you come back up, and how you move through life with that experience. That's resilience for me.
Yeah. In your opinion, do you feel like that is something that is innate in people, or do you feel like you can build it?
I think it's I think you build it, to be honest. I might get a little emotional. Um, where's my tissue? Um, for me, I've I've had to learn throughout my life. I've had to put on a tough exterior. There's been a lot of things in my world that, a lot of that could have very easily taken me out. And maybe years ago it would have. Um, the losses that we have in rescue is one thing, and there's a lot of them. And, started with losing Lily Pad. It was, what I thought was the worst day of my life. But my sister was murdered 2 years ago. And I thought I didn't know how I was going to get through that. I didn't know if I was going to get through that. I didn't, and it it put me back in therapy for sure. Um, but I had to really look at my life as a whole and my rescue, because I I knew that living through that experience could very easily affect how I was going to continue on in rescue, because my capacity for taking any further negativity, any one more bad thing in my life at that point, I did not know how I was going to be able to get back up again. And I think, taking on that experience, figuring out what I needed to do to strengthen my resilience. I was, I really struggled with how everything was going to look after that. That said, through therapy, through leaning on my supports, not just my family and, obviously my family and we worked through it together, but my rescue community, my fosters really, they really rallied around us at that time. They were so gracious with maintaining what they had going on with the dogs. I'm very much involved with every single foster and what's going on, but they said, Rach, we got this. Let us handle things for a bit, and you take care of what you need to take care of. And that really allowed me that time. And so surrounding yourself with people that are going to be cheerleaders when you need them, when you're down in the dumps so far. That is going to help build that resilience. And I don't think it's something that we all innately have. I think we learn as we go in life, and we it's a combination of all the experiences that we have.
Yeah. Well, thank you for sharing. And I'm so sorry to hear about that loss. That's significant, obviously unexpected, and
Yeah.
complicated.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But grief is complicated, right?
This is true. This is true. I mean, in your own, so obviously you've had some deep personal losses in this world of animal rescue. Obviously, there's also a lot of attachment to animals, and animals, their lives aren't as long as ours, and they have complications. How do you find yourself, and how do you help support your team move through grief?
Well, we focus on the small wins too, and the big wins. And we have dogs who have gone through their own trauma and their own difficulties. And when they come out, it's amazing how much we can learn about resilience just from the dogs that are in our care. I have one dog in particular. Her name is Daisy Hope, and she was shot by the person she thought was her person 3 times, and had to have bullets removed and bone fragment removed. But she's now with a family who has also been in trauma, and it's like they know each other. They I feel like dogs who are go through something like that, they need a special family. They need someone who's going to understand those fears and those trust issues. And so just watching her resilience and coming out and still trusting a human after being shot by one is amazing. And so that really that's helpful for our whole team, because they see these things. The fosters are really the backbone. They're the ones who are with the dogs every single day, and they see what they transition into from really bad situations.
Yeah.
And it's amazing to watch, and that's just how we keep going.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think animals have an amazing way of demonstrating resilience. They don't have the words, uh,
Right.
but how they continue to have that will and drive to, I don't know, exist
to
and
to thrive.
thrive.
To thrive, yeah. And I mean, we have dogs that I have one right now, Juniper. When I got her, she couldn't walk. And so we're helping her with swim therapy. And just last night, she's up on all fours. And I, I said, what is going on right now? I mean, it's just amazing to see that she doesn't know. She doesn't know that she is any different than any other dog. And seeing that is just an amazing thing. And because we are so specialized, we're the ones that get called when the other rescues can't take
Mm,
this dog because they don't do special needs.
yeah.
So these are truly the throwaways.
Mm,
People don't, it's hard to get these dogs adopted. We've had a couple dogs for a very long time. We've had one who's coming up on 2 years,
okay.
and we've had him since he was about 8 weeks old. So he's a young dog, but because he's differently abled, he's kind of overlooked. So we get lucky once in a while. We find a really great family for a very special dog. I've adopted out two-legged dogs, so it's doable, but it's needle in a haystack sometimes.
Yeah, anything's possible. I guess that finds me, I find myself kind of wondering what what draws certain people to dogs that have these medically complicated needs. Like, obviously, I don't think that's the norm, right? Most people
Right.
are searching out animals that don't require these specialized attention. Are you able to kind of draw like some kind of associations to what type of person
Yeah,
generally kind of comes your way?
I get it's kind of a mixed bag because I definitely have repeat adopters. I have people that, they've already had some sort of medical issue dog, and then they see us and, oh, okay, you've got a dog with the same issues that my dog had. And then I also have first time fosters and first time adopters that, were like me, never changed a diaper on a dog before, but they see us on social media, they see us out in the community, and they want to know more and they want to learn more. And it really is a caregiver's heart that I think leads them. They see, a dog that needs a little bit more, and I think a lot of us really try to tell ourselves, oh, I could never do that. You can do something. You can transport a dog that needs to wear a diaper. You
Mm.
could help that way. But it's really when, you if you sit down with people and you show them, if I can change a diaper on a dog, you certainly can. And people have a preconceived notion that they have to be home, 24/7. I'm not home 24/7.
Right.
Yes, I have other people here, but they are not always here. So sometimes you are gone and then you come home and you change your diapers. Hopefully they're still on. It has happened. But if you just show people, and that's why I share everything. I am so transparent. Lily's Pet Rescue in general, we are so transparent. I have my fosters sharing their videos. We make sure that we are sharing the good, the bad, the ugly, the things that don't seem to make sense, or we share all of it so that people can see, okay, I can do this. Will there be hiccups? Of course. But chances are, if you're experiencing something, I've already gone through it. I can probably walk you through it, and everything's going to be okay.
Yeah.
And it really is just finding that place in yourself that, yes, I can do this. So it really is a mixed bag of people. I'm grateful for the people that come that are very new and they just want to learn. We need
Hmm.
that to continue. We need the new people, because otherwise, the pot is going to fizzle out eventually if you don't get new people on board with what we're doing. And I think over the years, we've been around since 2015. There's a couple other special needs rescues in the United States. They're few, but they're there. And over the years, we've really grown as a community. And I think the word is getting out there that these dogs do not need to be euthanized. Let us help, but we also need the continued support.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, I love to hear that the space is growing.
Mhm.
And I hear that, yeah, with exposure and education, these types of dogs become more approachable to people, and you get to debunk myths and show people, like you said, it's actually not as scary as you think it is, or it's not as hard
Yeah.
as you think it might be. And I was just, scrolling through social medias, and I saw actually it was in the UK, but they opened up the very first dog park for disabled dogs, and it was
Oh, nice.
adorable. I was like, oh my God.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it.
It was
We
awesome.
need more adaptable parks out here too, I think. But yeah, they're great. And I think you're seeing more dogs in wheelchairs, and
Hmm.
you're just seeing more of it. And we're also seeing there's even the dog shows that are for special needs dogs,
Oh my gosh.
and they're showcasing their special needs. And that is just, and even on the Super Bowl, the puppy bowl,
Puppy
there's
bowl.
dogs in wheelchairs there too. So it really is opening up. And I mean, it's just fantastic because the dogs are not going away. As long as the breeding continues,
Yeah.
the issues are going to continue, and they're getting worse. that is a real issue. That the severity is getting worse, and we're seeing more dogs with other unique issues like cleft palates and
Mm,
hydrocephalus and dwarfism and things like that. That's why we have to open up and expand what our initial specialty is, just to meet the need.
yeah.
So
And so when you're saying it's getting worse, that's because of the breeding that's happening,
yeah,
especially.
absolutely. And they're a very popular breed. Anytime an English or a Frenchie wins the AKC or whatever the heck it is, the breeding goes up. And I mean, there's a lot of money to be made. And it's just unfortunate.
Yeah.
It's unfortunate. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I've been seeing a new specialized breed of, I think it's a bulldog or maybe it's a pit bull, a pockets,
Pocket bully.
pocket bully.
Yeah, we've had a couple of those.
Yeah.
And yeah, and there's, they're doing all sorts of weird things with it's like Dr. Moreau out there. They're just doing all sorts of things with even the English bulldog and the French bulldogs. They're making them more compact, and it's
Yes.
causing more issues.
Yeah.
And that's where we come in. It's like, well, you're creating more issues, and we are so busy. I've even gone so far as to get on social media and just say, hey, breeders, can you just slow down your role for just a minute, because we got to breathe. Like, I've got 24 dogs in rescue, and we're a small rescue. We're supposed to be a small rescue, and our numbers just keep going up and up and up because I get new fosters, which
Hmm.
is great,
Yeah.
but I'd rather still keep it relatively, like I said, we were going to help one or two at a time and just foster ourselves. And then I was contacted by somebody and said, hey, I would love to foster for you. And I'm like, wow, okay, well, we can help one more if we do that. And it, it got crazy. It got crazy. But when things happen organically, that's fine with me.
Yeah, absolutely. That's the best case scenario, I suppose. So, what is your capacity right now? Like what is full considered for you guys? And are you full right now?
We are full. I did just bring in one more from the shelter, another a totally different issue, seizure disorder, in an English bulldog, a young English bulldog. I got a new foster. I actually was my husband and I had a date night a couple weeks ago, and I was wearing my Lily's Pad shirt, and somebody asked me for my card, so I got a new foster. Therefore, I got another dog. Our capacity, honestly, is we're over capacity right now, because I do have multiple dogs in some fosters, and then we also have our sanctuary program.
Okay.
So we have our adoptables, and then we have our sanctuary for either seniors, or major medical. And so usually the dogs that are major medical or super seniors are here at our house. And then I have two other fosters that have senior sanctuary dogs as well. But we do have 24 right now. And like I said, some of those are doubled up. Um, if I had it, I do have one open spot that I keep for a crucial need.
Hmm.
And technically I have, well, we just opened up a spot here because our senior here passed away on Sunday. um and so those are cases that, if should the need come up, I can sneak one in. But I say that, and then the problem is that we need to be financially responsible as well. And donations are slow, adoptions are slow. So I have to be very mindful when I have to say no to a dog. It's not always just for space.
Yeah.
I have to look at what are we looking at with this dog.
Yeah.
Are we going to have to go in for a $5,000 surgery, you know that kind of thing. So that's a hard part of running a rescue, is having to make those decisions based on finances.
Yeah, I see it often. I follow a lot of rescues on social media, and the vet bills are inevitable.
Mhm.
And it's not cheap. And yeah, you really have to rely on your supporters to kind of get you through those big humps where the costs are high. And
Yeah.
yeah, so yeah, you definitely need to be mindful
Yeah.
of what you
Well,
can
we
realistically take on.
exactly. And it's constant fundraising and you asked earlier what people need to realize. And that's another thing too is rescues in general get criticized for asking for money and doing multiple fundraisers. We have to. It's probably 75% of our job is to raise money, and so it does look like we're always out there with our hand out. We have to.
Yeah.
You want us to take dogs, we have to ask you for money. So just remember that that's just part of the job, and we don't have a choice, and especially when you're dealing with medical cases, because I guarantee you our adoption fee is never going to cover not any any amount for these dogs that we bring in. I mean,
Mhm.
our spays and neuters are more because of the breed of dog and their medical issues. We don't have $125 neuters. It doesn't work that way with bulldogs or with medical cases.
Okay.
Yeah, it doesn't work that way. We have to have intubation. We have to, it's a process
Mhm.
to spay or neuter a bulldog, especially one with back issues you
Yeah,
know
absolutely.
and most of the male spina bifida dogs, they have to actually have a surgery to be neutered because their testicles don't drop. They are
Mhm.
cryptorchids, and so that it's just a normal thing in these dogs. For some whatever reason it is, they don't drop, so we're spending a lot more for a neuter.
Yeah, that's interesting information to know.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
wouldn't have even contemplated that at all.
Yeah,
Yeah.
medical rescues put out quite a bit
Yeah.
in just normal vet care.
Yeah. Have you ever been in a place where you're just like, I don't know if I can keep doing this or
Yeah, absolutely. You know, I knew when Lily Pad died, I knew the only thing that was going to keep me going was knowing that it was for her, and because she had such an impact on not just my life, but the lives of, tens of thousands of people. Um, there have been a couple of losses that just set me back. And I felt like, can I continue through the losses? um the losses I feel very deeply, and whether they're in my personal care or with a foster, I feel every single one, and I honor every single one. We do a rainbow bridge post for every loss, even ones that have been adopted out. If their family contacts me, I ask them permission to make a post because their lives have meaning, and sometimes it gets heavy. Um, and then I just, I kind of say, Lil, I need you to help me through this, and something will come up, and she paves the way for whatever. But when my sister died, I talked to my therapist about it. I said, I'm in such grief right now that if anything bad happens in the rescue, I don't know how I'm going to function through it. And so I really had to do a lot of soul searching and shadow work and just figuring out how I was going to continue.
yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Yeah. What do you feel like this job has taught you about where your limits are, how to honor your limits? How do you know when you're at your limit?
Well, I'll tell you what. I have been I have been let known by my own body more than once, that if you don't slow down, if you don't take that time, your body's going to do it for you, and that has happened. So honestly, when I really start having a problem remembering things. Like if my memory starts triggering a little bit, I then I know, okay, I need a breather. Um, and that might just be a day off of social media. It might just be, going and having a date night with my husband, or, going camping for the week, or, whatever the case may be. My breaks don't have to be long. They can be very short, and just, re-energize my brain. But that, I can always kind of tell when I'm getting to my limit, my capacity, um, because I'm forgetting things, which I write things down 20 times. And if I'm still forgetting something when I'm writing it down in 3 different journals, that's a problem. So it's time to take a break.
Some pretty significant clues.
Yeah, exactly. But I have been to the point where I've gotten physically sick because I didn't slow things down, or I didn't ask for help. And now I have an assistant now. I have a foster coordinator. Like, I've set myself up to help quite a bit. It used to be I did everything on my own. I
Hmm.
I didn't trust. This is my baby,
Oh,
this is
yeah.
my baby, and trust is a hard thing for me. And I did trust somebody once, and I regret every second of that. Um, and because of that, it's made it very, very difficult for me to ask for help. I've surrounded myself with very good people and very like-minded people, so I'm trusting now. I have somebody that does our website. I have the foster. I have my assistant. I have another assistant for other things. So it's working a little better.
Yeah, so something shifted, whether it's just how you were approaching these newer relationships or communities, that you were able to let go of some of the things that you protect so dearly. So something has shifted for you that you've been able to do that.
Yeah. Again, therapy.
Therapy. Oh, therapy.
Go therapy. The moral of the story is therapy. If you talk it, it's just amazing how much you can learn about yourself, and what your capacity is, and what your resilience is, and how you can keep things going. But you have to be able to work through those things. And if you get stuck, you're not gonna get very far.
Yeah. I appreciate you being a champion for therapy.
Very good.
Because I do, yeah, I mean, we can only take ourselves so far, and our brain kind of trusts every thought that it has. And if it's just staying in there and we're kind of mulling things over and over all on our own,
Mm,
we lack a certain perspective. We lack an ability to gain certain insights. Even though we are ourselves and we're walking around in our body having our existence, we're still short-sighted by certain things. And
right.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
And
uh,
sometimes we just need that other person to say, well, here, this is a tool you can use,
yeah,
and use it or don't. But it's nice to have a toolbox.
absolutely. And it sounds like you have a pretty workable toolbox right now.
I do.
Yeah.
I do. I have my moments. We got to be real about that. There are still moments, but if we're going to be successful in this work, we have to be able to maintain things, and um, realizing that nobody can do this alone. This is a hard job. If you think you can do it alone, you're lying to yourself. You will not sustain that. We've seen it time and time again in the rescue community. As a group, we can see who's flailing and who's surviving, and the ones who are surviving are the ones that are working as a group, working together. I have said since day one of starting Lily's Pad Rescue that I will learn from those who came before me. I will learn what to do and what not to do based on what I see in front of me. And I have some pretty awesome mentors out there. And I hope I'm able to be a mentor for others in my actions.
Yeah.
So
Well, you answered my next question, which was if well, I think you answered it. If people were considering getting into this world of rescue, if you had any advice.
Well, that's a big one is, make sure that you surround yourself with people that are going to work with you and give you advice, give you solid advice. Take what works for you, leave the rest. But also, if you're looking at starting a rescue, don't go into it cold. You want to really work with other rescue groups, see what kind of rescue you want to be. Make sure you're sitting with somebody on the back end. Don't just say I want to rescue dogs, because there is more to it than rescuing dogs, and it's hard. If you don't know what's going on behind the scenes, then your rescue is not going to be successful. You will have a good heart. I get that. Everybody goes into this wanting to save dogs, but if you don't know the behind the scenes work that goes into it, you're not going to be successful. And it's a good idea to have those things up front in front of you so you can see what you have to do rather than learn from your mistakes. So
Yeah.
a lot easier. You'll be a lot more successful and a lot more resilient, because you get really down on yourself when you mess up. You really do. And especially if it comes at any kind of cost. And I've seen people quit very early on because it got hard.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
we need good rescues out there. So please come join us. Go do be, but do it right.
Wise words. That's a good slogan.
And I'm always happy to talk with people. I work with people all the time that, say, hey, I want to start a rescue. What do I do? And that's really the first thing I tell them is go volunteer for a year or two.
Yeah.
Not just volunteering saving the dogs, volunteering on the back end.
Oh yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
Yep,
Seeing how everything works. Yeah, not just
exactly.
being able
Yep,
to go walk them or clean
yep,
their kennels or whatnot. Yeah, being on the
yep,
back end and
yep. Look at the
in the
paperwork.
nitty gritty. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Okay. Well, if people wanted to support your mission, get involved, how could they do that? What's the best way for them to initiate that?
Well, we do have a website, and that's liliespadrescue.org. And there is a donate button right there on the homepage. We also have Venmo and PayPal. I don't love PayPal because they do charge a fee. However, we do still have it. For fostering and adopting, there are applications on our website, and those come straight to me. Um, and then also follow our social medias and share every single post you see. You never know who's going to see a post because they're public. The more shares, the more people will see it, and that could be that dog's next family. So, yeah, foster, adopt, donate, share.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, and that's a good reminder that you never know who will see
Mm-hmm.
something you put out there, and it could be just the right person for that dog.
Yep,
Yeah,
absolutely.
that's very good. Well, Rachel, I really appreciate your time and your insights and your commitment to these dogs and to helping people in this world that you're in. And yeah, it was very valuable talking today.
Well, thank you. I really do appreciate you giving us space for rescue groups and for us to share what we go through and how we get through it. It really is an important thing. I was very excited to see you doing this. So thank you very much.
Great. Well, thank you. That means a lot. And hopefully we can just keep the conversations going.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you again to Rachel Davis of Lily's Pad Rescue for sharing her story. If you were moved by this episode, share it with a friend. Continue to follow us on Instagram, like our episodes, and let's continue to build this conversation about what it takes to stay resilient in this animal welfare space. Until next time, may we all find our own tale of resilience. Thanks for joining us on Tales of Resilience. If today's story moved you, reminded you of your own path, or gave you something to think about, please consider sharing this episode with someone else who cares. You can follow us on Instagram at zodi.pause and animal.rescuehub to stay connected, or visit zodipaws.com or animalrescuehub.org to learn more about both of these organizations. And you can also email us directly at info@animalrescuehub.org. And if you or someone you know has a story worth sharing, we'd love to hear from you. Until next time, be kind to yourself and never underestimate the power of a tale and a little resilience.